Well, we're going to move from the beautiful Peace Garden in Fredericksburg to talking about bamboos, one of the classic plants of the Orient. And I'm joined by Merrideth Jiles from the Great Outdoors Nursery. Meredith, it's such a pleasure to have you on Central Texas Gardener.
Glad to be here.
One of my favorite places to hang out, the Great Outdoors. Always cool selection of things. And bamboo has become kind of a specialty down there, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've definitely done very well with bamboo. We've carried it for quite a long time, but in the last couple of years, it's really become a very popular plant.
Well, especially the clumping bamboos, which you have a wide variety of that you're going to be sharing with people today. But what do you think attracts people to bamboo? What is it about the plant that really calls to people and accounts for its new popularity?
Well, I think there's definitely an aesthetic to bamboo. It's a very beautiful plant, very graceful, the flowing in the breeze kind of feeling, and I think people really like that. And I think, as you alluded to earlier, it kind of has that sense of the Orient, kind of an ancient sense, if you will.
Yeah, it does.
And a very beautiful plant. But I think another thing that's been very attractive to people is the growth rate, because it does grow very quickly. So.
Yeah, and if you need screening,
yes,
there's some varieties that we're going to talk about that people will really love to learn about.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're going to start our little tour of the different bamboos by talking about a notorious character first.
Yes.
Now, for years, this was the only bamboo you could find anywhere in nurseries, and this is, of course, golden bamboo, and it's a lovely plant.
Oh, yes.
Great
Beautiful plant. But, kind of like kudzu, the plant that ate the South.
Right.
It can be much more rampant than most people are prepared to deal with.
Yeah.
So.
Well, when we say rampant, this is a runner. Yes. We talk about clumping bamboos and runners.
Yes.
This is definitely a runner.
Yeah.
As is black bamboo, which is sometimes people believe that's a clumping, but it's not. But this thing, if you're going to plant it in the ground, you really need to use precaution, right?
Yes, you definitely need to contain it. And there are products available, like we sell a product called Bamboo Barrier, which is a 40 mil, very thick plastic that you can bury in to contain the root zone. Most of the Phylostachys, which is the running bamboo that's most common here in Austin, is going to run probably around 8 to 10 inches deep. And this barrier actually goes down 20 inches. So if a runner hits that, it'll turn left, turn right, turn up, but it won't turn down, go underneath, and come back the other side.
Yeah, so be prepared to dig a ditch if you're going to plant golden bamboo, in other words.
Kind of a labor-intensive plant, to say the least.
Or you can use a trench tool, which is what I did in my own backyard. But it is a lovely plant.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really like it, and the black bamboo as well, but they're both runners. The next plant that we're going to talk about is a timber bamboo.
Yes.
And this is actually a clumping form, correct?
Yes, giant timber bamboo, Bambusa oldhamii. And one thing you have to kind of watch for, there's a lot of bamboos that are called giant timber bamboo.
Okay.
It's kind of, in a way, almost a generic term for a very large bamboo. But Bambusa oldhamii is what we would consider giant timber bamboo in Austin. One of the things you have to be careful of is you want to make sure you get a plant that is cold hardy here in Austin, and maybe not too cold hardy so that it can actually take our heat. And this one definitely falls into that category.
Okay, and this is attractive for the different texture of the leaves, which is a much bolder looking leaf form. And this gets really tall, doesn't it?
Yes, this plant can get, I know I've seen some in town that are probably approaching 40 feet. It could theoretically get taller than that.
Okay.
And the other thing about the giant timber in particular, a lot of people do come in asking for that really big diameter culm. And it's probably one of the biggest culms that you're going to find.
Okay, and when you say culm, you're just talking about the kind of the shoot.
Yes, each one of the shoots that comes up,
right.
The vertical element.
Right, well, they're magnificent plants. I absolutely love these. And for those people who have maybe like a mansion move in behind them, and then all of a sudden there are all these windows peering into your backyard.
Yes.
Here's an answer for you that is actually quite a tough plant.
Yeah, they are very good plants. They're fairly disease resistant, things like that. One thing I do like to point out to people, and it's kind of the good side and the bad side of clumping bamboo. The good side would be the growth rate. Nothing really grows much faster than bamboo. And if you started with a 5-gallon container of a bamboo that gets 20 feet tall and a 5-gallon shrub that gets 20 feet tall, you will have 20 feet of bamboo long before you will have 20 feet of shrub.
Right,
So that mature growth comes much more quickly. The downside that I found to bamboo, particularly the clumpers, is they're definitely not a native xeriscapic plant. They do need regular irrigation, particularly when we go through a drought like we had last summer.
Yeah.
They're going to need, not every day, but definitely a good deep soaking. I think I've watered my more established bamboos about every 10 days or so, a good deep soaking.
Found the exact same thing last year. I have a stand of black bamboo in my backyard. Had to give it I wouldn't say I gave it every 10 days, but I gave it some deep drinks during the course of the the summertime. The next plant that we have behind you over there is something called Golden Goddess. And is this another clumper?
Golden Goddess is another clumper, and that's another thing that is confusing to some people, because golden bamboo, voracious runner, Golden Goddess, nice, neat little clumper.
Okay.
It's one of the smaller clumping bamboos, probably max out around 10 feet for most people. Really good for a little privacy above a privacy fence if you don't need to block that 3-story McMansion. Just good to give you a little privacy up there.
Right, but to give you the same effect of the golden bamboo, of a delicate tracery kind of foliage, and but well behaved and doesn't require digging a ditch. So,
exactly.
This next one, I love this next plant, and this is a form with great variegation on it, and it's called Silverstripe.
Yes, Silverstripe bamboo actually has a variegation in the leaf, a white variegation to the leaf. Really nice, very arching plant. So you need to give it a little room, not necessarily on the ground, but
they will spread out, and sometimes they just the canes kind of fall out, if you will. Now, on most bamboos, I assume that they need pretty good sun. They are grass family. How much shade can they tolerate?
Well, Tom, I have planted Buddha's Belly and Alphonse Carr under the canopy of a pecan tree in my yard, and they seem to be doing pretty well. Maybe not quite as vigorous a growth as if they got more sun, but I am finding that through last summer's drought, they probably held up a little better to the extreme heat with some shade. I definitely wouldn't put them in structural shade or that spot that just gets a little pop of sun in the morning, but I don't think they need to bake all day long.
Okay, great. Well, you mentioned Buddha's Belly.
Yes.
And this is a lovely form. Now, how did it acquire its name?
The name Buddha's Belly comes, and it's actually a kind of a great segue to talk about caring for bamboo. So each section of a culm is also called the culm, the section there. And on a Buddha's Belly plant, if it is in good soil, irrigated regularly, each one of those sections can get 12, 14, 16 inches long, which translates into a plant that could easily get 35, 40 feet tall.
Right.
If the plant is very stressed, or if you actually put it like in a container and keep the roots really bound, instead of that culm segment getting 14 inches, it'll get about 2 inches and very fat and swollen.
Okay.
And so that's where Buddha's Belly comes from.
Okay. Well,
and that plant's actually used in bonsai sometimes to get those really exaggerated little.
Well, I think it sounds pretty attractive, actually.
Yes, beautiful plant.
Yeah. So, and that's one that you recommend for the Austin area as well. It's a clumper. Now, one very popular one that's really taken off I'd say in the past 10 years has been an amazingly popular plant is Mexican weeping bamboo.
Yes. I would have to say of all the bamboos I've had and all the ones I've seen, it's probably my favorite one to grow here in Austin. Very delicate, very graceful little leaf. Like you're talking about that swaying in the breeze.
Oh, it's gorgeous, yeah.
Beautiful plant, and probably a little more sun and drought tolerant than some of the other clumpers.
Actually, yeah, I used to grow some, but it got too shaded out and was a little disappointing in the shade, so it didn't do quite as well.
Yeah.
So, but it is a great plant in terms of the different options. Got to mention this last one a little bit too, Tiny Fern.
Tiny Fern. Tiny Fern is a variety that I have. It's a little harder to find than most. And it's actually a very interesting thing. The family Bambusa multiplex is a very large family, or subfamily, I guess if you will, of bamboos with a lot of different things in it. Tiny Fern's one that only gets about 4 or 5 feet tall.
Okay, well, great variety in the bamboos, and you can find these plants at the great outdoors.
Absolutely.
And fun to play with, I think. It's a great plant family, and it really adds a perfect touch in a garden if you're looking for that hint of the Orient. So, yes. Merrideth, thanks for coming in, being our guest today. We'll have to have you back. I know you have lots of other plant families that you could talk about.
Absolutely. Great to be here. Thanks, Tom.
All right. Coming up next is our friend Skip Richter.